Hey everybody, what's up? So I'll post a link to the video below. Benji James was talking about a movie called The Signal. Ooh, sorry, trying to kill the light in here a little bit, so that you can get a good shot of this. But yeah, so basically, The Signal. I'm not going to go into much detail because I agree with Benji. The less you know about this movie, the better it is. The Signal is basically about a town. Now, you don't know if the whole world is being hit with this or not. Called Terminus, where this strange transmission has started. It's basically affecting all communications devices, TVs. Keep showing this weird video kind of thing. It's hard to explain. The movie starts out with this really kind of weird, like horror-esque scene where this guy goes, this guy's killing these women, and it kind of leads into the opening scene. Uh, it's definitely not one of those movies you would expect to watch. According to the information, this movie rather, had a very, very low budget. Now, one of the things I do like is the fact that it actually does not rely on CGI. It actually does really use practical effects, which is really great. So the movie basically is kind of considered into three parts. The three main characters in the movie are Maya, her husband Lewis, and Ben. Ben is basically Maya's boyfriend. Lewis is her husband, and the whole thing, how do I want to explain it? Basically revolves around right after the signal starts broadcasting, people start going nuts. I mean, as in nuts, just killing everybody in sight. If you're exposed to the signal, you start losing it. The kind of interesting thing is, it really seems like Maya and Ben aren't affected as much. And Ben basically had wanted Maya to run away with him, go to this particular, I don't want to say it, terminal station. They didn't figure just leave. And he's kind of making all these different analogies of what they can do. Each part of the transmission, or sections, chapters, what do you want to call them, goes through. I'm trying to think of the best words to put it here. Kind of like they go through these different parts where they explain, like something will happen in the second act that happened in the first act, but they're kind of like showing it. Vandy kind of bothers me because it's a bit of a mind fuck. Pardon my expression there, but it really is. And what ends up happening, it's almost like Ben has figured out how to break through. They meet this guy named Clark in the third act, who's kind of like this conspiracy theory nut that actually ends up making stuff make sense on what's going on. Lewis is, Lewis is an idiot in my opinion. He's always has to ask Maya, what's going on, where have you been, stuff like this. Like, he doesn't trust her, which it's kind of sad in my opinion, because it's almost like he must have her. He must protect her at all costs. It There's no other way to really explain it. One of the funniest moments that I actually saw in the movie was there's a character named Jim Parsons. And we all know Jim Parsons, who plays Sheldon on The Big Bang Theory, if you've not seen it. Such a funny guy in there. And I just found that part hilarious. there is a lot of different stuff that you have to question. For example, who's watching a baseball game at 1 o'clock in the morning, which is kind of odd. Um, people really, people start losing their sense of reality in this because ultimately, part of what the signal does is it works how you perceive things. People may see others coming back to life when they haven't. That what they're doing is for the greater good. It's kind of almost like everything about them starts coming out. The version I did get is the two DVD set that includes deleted scenes, the making of the movie. I haven't watched the second one. There's apparently a short film in here, just a lot of different stuff. And in a way, it's almost like, I don't know how to describe it. Kind of like zombie-ish. How some of the people react, because hear people go, "Do you have the crazy in you? Do you have the crazy in you?" What they're referring to is the massive amount of killing other people are doing. Sorry, I had to turn the fan on. It's just funny because you see these people asking this question, and they're going nuts. There's another character named Rod who is really the first person to notice what's going on, and he sees himself as normal and everybody else isn't. He goes, you can't trust people. It's definitely different. Lewis is a sadistic. Wow. Yeah. I didn't care much for the first act. The second act had a lot of moments in which I found funny. Um, the third act was like, woohoo, wow. Just it's hard to describe the level of weirdness. There were a couple things that I wish they had explained, but they didn't. It's one of those things you really have to see yourself, because there's a lot of it you can't describe, and I think that's really what makes it such an interesting movie, because as you're watching the movie, you start noticing different things happening in the background. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's very worth it. And some of the stuff that goes on, it's too crazy for words. It really, really is. Lewis, I would say, definitely it is. Lewis actually shows really what the signal how does to people over anything else. Based off of his actions, he becomes paranoid. It's he takes conversations way out of line. It's just crazy. Um, by the way, there is nudity in the beginning. I'm not gonna lie, there is some nudity. There's some TNA. Um, but yeah, I mean that's really all you see. There is a lot of gore. Oh, is there ever a lot of gore? Uh, but I liked it. I mean, I would call it a horror movie. Yes, it definitely has some disgusting moments, but that's what makes it an interesting movie, especially in the third act. There's just God, there's a scene. I'm not going to go into it because it's one of those things you have to see yourself. Um, I don't know how to explain it. That's just the thing. it shows how warped people's reality is. You know, it really does. I really wish that, like I said, I really wish they explained more of the ending because even that screws with your mind. Ben actually is the first person you see looking at the transmission, whatever the signal is, and it's just so odd how it doesn't affect him. Maya, keeps herself calm, not paying attention by wearing her earphones, listening to. Yes, I am not kidding on this. They actually do. It was made in 2007, so you got to figure that out. Um, wearing a, listening to a CD Walkman that has this mixed CD that Ben gave her. Now, this is actually kind of a crucial thing in part of the movie. There are there kind of are funny scenes where like you see these people are supposed to be dead, and like there's one moment I looked at the corner of the screen. There's this woman lying there. I'm like, how did she die? You kind of slightly see that she's breathing, but if you weren't paying attention, you wouldn't notice it. The version Benji put up does have a lot of censorship, and I agree with that because some of the stuff in this movie obviously would not go through very well. So if you like weird stuff and you don't mind gore, a little bit of TNA, and you like to have your head screwed with, definitely a movie I would encourage people to watch. I wouldn't, I would watch it again when I had the time, just because I want to try to see if there's more stuff I can catch, because it's that interesting. And by far, the actual, when you do see the broadcast of whatever's causing this problem, I would say if you have epilepsy, it may not be a good thing to watch. I don't know personally, because of how the colors swirl in that. It does. If you see stuff that looks disjointed, basically like this, the DVD skipping, whatever, it's not. It's actually done that way on purpose. So yeah, you may think there's something wrong with it, but there's not. I promise. So that's it, everybody. I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye.